Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us this Sunday again on NFcommunity Online. Thank you for joining our service. My name is Oscar, and like always, we are so glad to have you on the other side of the screen. Welcome, and God bless you for joining our service today. I just want to remind you of our online growth group. It's our Thursday Bible studies at 8 p.m. If you're living in Belgium, if you're living in Ghana, for instance, it's at 7 o'clock. If you're living elsewhere and you would like to join us, I will check the time, 8 o'clock p.m. in the evening compared to your time, and you can join us. And I invite you to make time to join us because I believe that this is going to inspire your spirit. It's going to help you grow. It's going to help your faith-driven life because we are all about faith-driven life. We believe in faith, and we believe in faith in Jesus Christ as the source, as the beginning point, as the which fuels and inspires to keep going. And that is why we encourage you to join us on Thursday evenings at 8 p.m. and just join our Bible studies. And we also discuss digital skills that are very useful because, we are living in a digital world today. And with less digital knowledge, the harder it gets. And so we are studying like the basics of digital things that can help your everyday life. This is not about academics or experts or anything. We are just sharing our know-hows, our knowledge that we have acquired through our experiences at work, through our experiences dealing with the internet and things like that. And we want to share it with you. So join us at 8 p.m. Thursdays evenings for our Bible studies, and I believe God will definitely bless you as you take the steps. We are entrepreneurship oriented, so we welcome you Thursday evenings. Before we get into the word, I just want to say, Father, we thank you for this gathering. We bless you for making it possible for us to meet this Sunday again. I commit all those who are on the other side of the screen, ready to inspire, ready to fuel their faith-driven life. Father, may you meet them there. May you send your angels into their homes, and may you open their hearts and their mind and make them receptive to your word so that your word will fall on good grounds and grow and inspire and help them produce hundreds, thousands, and millions of fruits that is required and that is born out of your word. This week we spoke about who are you following, because it's so important to understand that we live in a follow me world now. Because of social media, you have to follow people, but I was even moving beyond just the likes and the clicks and the notifications. I was moving more to the you have to understand that the people you are looking at, there's a saying that people only do what they see. Most of us are inspired by what we see, and we do what we see. Every single human being, and it's a normal thing. But you have to be careful the people you're following, what they're showing you, and the results you're drawing from following such people. And that is why last week's message is so important. And I pray that God gives me the spirit to be able to convey and to bring really the message the way he gave it to me. I think I am still growing in that direction, but I believe that if you listen to last week's message, it will be a blessing. This week I want to go into a message I call, To Whom Shall We Go? To Whom Shall We Go? And I want us to look at the Bible verse from the book of John 6. The book of John 6:68, and it says that then Simon Peter answered him, Lord, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life. May the Lord bless his word and help us understand his word so that it will do that which it's supposed to do in our life. When we go through I would like to just give you a brief background of the whole chapter 6 of John, because I think that is important to where we are taking this verse from. In the chapter 6 of John, we see Jesus doing some of the most popular, most important miracles that he will ever do in the course of his ministry here on earth. And we see Jesus feed 5,000 people with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes from a little boy. And he prayed over it, and he let people sit down, and he distributed that little that he had, that little bread and fish that this little boy had, and it becomes plenty. It becomes great. Everybody eats and they are left over from this. That is what God is capable of doing. He is able to take the little, he's able to take the small thing, and he's able to take the insignificant, irrelevant thing from anybody, from an insignificant person, from somebody who's lacking, and he's able to turn it into something great and beyond our understanding. So we see that in the book John 6, and we also see that Jesus performing another miracle, that is, he walks on water. He's able to turn the laws of physics. He's able to turn the laws of nature, because he was there when these things were being created, and so he understands the elements, the chemistry, the things that comes together to hold the tensions and to understand what, how the laws of nature comes together. And so he's able to overrule it because he has the upper power. He is the super power. He is the supreme being. He understands what he has created. And that is also in the book of John 6. And then he goes on to present himself in the course of this same chapter as the bread of life. Bread is so important in our world today. I was watching, I think, National Geography, and they were doing, there's a program called Inventions or Great Inventions, and they were talking about bread and how it's so popular and how it's so in every culture you go to, there is some form of bread over there because it's part of our cuisine, it's part of our diet. And Jesus here uses the same bread that gives all of us life, that satisfies us, to say that I am the bread of life. I am the bread of life that comes from heaven to fill you up, to change your life. And when you eat of me, when you drink of me, I give you life, and I satisfy you that you do not become hungry again. And we see that also in John. And then he goes on to disclose one of the things that I think is also important to notice here in the chapter, is that he says that he talks about the work of God, and he said the work of God is this, that to believe in the one he has sent. If you believe in the one who God sends, which is Jesus Christ, then you're already doing the work of God. How easy is that? Jesus came to simplify things that were so difficult for us to understand, so that we can understand and get closer to the Father. And so in the finishing of this chapter at the verses 68, 67, 68, we see that there is a commotion coming up. Jesus has taken the people from a certain stage of learning, a certain stage of revelation of him, to another level of revelation of who he is. He is growing them. He has fed them bread. He has sat with them. He has been kinder to them. He has exposed and drawn them into who he is. But now he's taking them even further into the teachings of the kingdom, into the divine revelation that they need to capture in order to come to understand his personality. You see, when it's like a child, you cannot teach a child what you teach an adult. And so when Jesus first comes on the scene, he gathers people, he shows them his power, but he's more than just providing them with physical bread or multiplying their food. And so what he does is that he shows them the nature of who he is, which is that he is the bread of life. He has come to fill them up. He has come to take them in a different direction. But in the course of that teaching, people become uncomfortable. They become uncomfortable. Because they became uncomfortable, some of them decided to leave. Some of them decided to walk away. It is mostly the thing we always do. We always want to, whenever we face challenges or when we face situations that we cannot control, that are above and beyond us, they're even sometimes they are not even above and beyond us. When we don't feel like doing any efforts anymore, when we feel like this is too much, most of the time there are three things that we do. We flee, we fight, or we freeze. And that is related to fear also, because all these things are born out of fear. The moment we are introduced to the unknown, when people don't know and are not sure, and they are in unfamiliar grounds, they want to move and abandon. And so most of them decided to walk away because now Jesus' teaching has moved from eating the physical bread to eating the spiritual bread. And some of them cannot fathom that, they cannot understand that, they cannot relate to that because there is a divine nature, and that divine nature is a contradiction to their natural self. Because it's deeper and it's more than what they expected, they decide to go away. And it is out of this that Jesus turned to the 12 who were standing next to him and asked them, are you going to go also? We are living in times that are a bit difficult now. My question is, to whom shall you go now? Are you going to turn your back to Jesus? Are you going to give up on your faith? Are you going to move away from that which you have known from your childhood? Are you going to just hang it on the wall somewhere and tell yourself you are done with it? To whom shall you go? Are you going to give up on your faith? I had this story of a young man who in his teenage years was perceived as stubborn, was not listening, was not doing what the people he was living with wanted him to do. They decided to kick him out of the house. And this young man find himself on the streets with only the clothes that he was wearing at that time. And the question was, to whom shall he go? From where is he going? You know, there are two different groups here. There are people who know to whom they can go. But there are some who have nowhere else to go. There are some who have come to a certain understanding that the only thing they have is their faith in Jesus Christ, and they have nothing else to rely on, to seek, or to pursue, or nothing else matters. It's only Jesus that we know, that we can hold on to. Like this little boy who was on the street, who had nowhere to go to, that he has no money to go to, he had no knowledge to go to, no philosophy to go to, no cleverness to go to, no accolades and academic achievement to go to. The only thing he could go to was Jesus. My question to you is, to whom are you going? Or to whom shall you go? You know, in life, sometimes you may have friends, but as you progress in life, as you do certain things, as you change your ways, all of a sudden you see them moonwalking on you. You know, Michael Jackson, and waving till they disappear out of your life because things have changed. And it is the same situation that Jesus is facing. And I don't want you to lose heart when people walk out on you. Because here is this great guy. Here's this guy who is giving mercy, who is introducing people to their real identity, sharing what God has in store for their life. He is the quintessential of grace and goodness, and yet still people walked out on him. People unfollowed Jesus. Are people unfollowing you on social media because you talk about God? Are people unfollowing you because your nature, the way you live your life, your faith-driven life, it's a little bit, challenging and uncomfortable and makes them feel unfamiliar, and so people are unfollowing you? Are you worried about it? I came with a message to tell you, do not worry about it. Do not be dismayed. Do not give up. Do not worry when people don't capture or cannot relate to where God is taking you or bringing you, because it happened to Jesus. One thing that the first thing I want us to look at is, why did these people walk away from Jesus? Why did they walk away? Why did they want to turn back and away from Jesus? They turned back because they were offended. They became offended because first of all, they came for bread. They didn't come for Jesus to teach them about who he was and then to teach them about cannibalistic things. They came for bread. Why is this guy teaching us about a God somewhere? Why is he teaching us something we don't know? And so they became offended. When you read the verse 61 of the same John 6, it says that aware that his disciples were grumbling about this, Jesus said to them, does this offend you? Are you offended by the church? Are you offended by religion? Have you been offended by pastors leaders or so-called men of God? Have you been offended by uh, people who go to church? Have you been offended by the wealth of leaders in the house of God? Have you been offended by the lifestyle of Christianity? Have you been offended by the homophobias in the church? Have you been offended by people not accepting you for who you are? Have you been offended by the history of the church? Have you been offended by what people did? Have you been offended? And yes, maybe you might have somewhere there, because as a young African, when I read some of the history of the church and how much they were involved in certain things, and history has made it clear to me, and this is the plain truth, sometimes I am offended. And that offense has the capacity to make me want to turn my back on my faith. That offense has the capacity to want me to say, you know what, this does not matter anymore. This is not worthwhile anymore. This is not worth it, so I give up. And I walk away from the faith that gives me strength, that gives me comfort, that directs my path, that guides me. You know, there is a certain danger connected to offense. And one time I was discussing this thing with a guy recently at a meeting about a project for Africa, and we are discussing it, and we are talking about the coronavirus and the COVID-19 vaccination, and we are talking about the misinformation surrounding this situation, and he points out that there's a danger to this, because somehow people might be telling you based on the past, be scared and avoid the vaccination and all those things, but there are two sides to it. What if it works? What if it's meant to save you? And because of that, you backing away from it because you giving up on it based on some issues and misinformation. You walking away from it. Now you are more in danger and you are not safe. And it's the same thing that happens with offense. Whenever we become offended and we take a step back, we miss out sometimes. And so I want to encourage you, no matter the offense that you have, no matter the situation that you have seen or you have heard of, and that tells you to walk away from the faith that you were born in, that you were brought up in, that you grew up in. Why don't you just get personal? I want you to take a step beyond and above the things of offense. Get one-on-one with Jesus yourself. Because it's the only way that you can experience Jesus. Stop looking at what people did in the name of Jesus or in the name of the Father. Stop looking at the church using the name of God for their own selfish gains. Stop looking at fake people professing the name of God for their own gains. And that is why faith life is so important, because faith life is about you, Jesus, you getting closer, you getting personal, knowing who he is, what he wants for your life, and living your life with him, from him, because he is in you, because he is part of your life. Offense was the number one reason why these people wanted to turn their back on God, because they were offended by the teachings of Jesus. Do not let offense make you turn your back on Jesus. The second reason why they wanted to turn their back on Jesus is because the thing that he was teaching them was unfamiliar. The unfamiliar, they were not used to it. They wanted the bread, the physical bread, the bread of the world. They wanted the bread that they knew and not the bread that they didn't know. And it's the same thing. Sometimes we want the bread of the world, but the bread of the world is the bread of fear. The bread of the world is the bread of stress. The bread of the world is the bread of anxiety. The bread of the world is the bread of frustration. And so when Jesus said, I want to talk about the second point, to whom shall we go? Peter replied, to whom shall we go? He said, there is nothing good out there for us. We know the truth. We have come to be settled in you, Jesus. We have come to wait on you, and we know what you carry, and we understand who you are, and we know your capacity. Why will we walk away from you? To whom shall